Welcome to day 9 of our 12 Days of Christmas. So today we're looking at the second half of the two different people that Jesus was introduced to at the temple when he came to be circumcised and named. So we're starting in Luke 2, verse 36 through 38. There was also a prophet, Anna, the daughter of Phanuel, who belonged to the tribe of Asher. She was very old. After she married, she lived with her husband for 7 years. She was now an 84-year-old widow. She never left the temple area but worshipped God with fasting and prayer night and day. She approached at that very moment and began to praise God and to speak about Jesus to everyone who was looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. So keep in mind that this happens directly after Simeon has his blessing and little prophecy and talks about how his life is completely changed. So this comes right after that. And so Anna, we can kind of guess that, considering that most women got married in their early teens. So if Anna had lived with her husband for 7 years, so let's say she got married at 13, 14, so she was 20, 21. And then add 84 years of that. So she's very old, somewhere in her hundreds, maybe 105. And so it said she never left the temple. So that may mean that she had a difficulty walking, or maybe she just was there all the time from morning till night. And so anyway, as she approaches Jesus, she doesn't hold him. She just begins to walk around at the moment and praise God and to speak to Jesus about Jesus to everyone who was looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. So this also fits very well with the idea that Simeon was a soldier, because he would have gathered around him other people who were either other warriors or other people who would have agreed with him as to the need for the redemption or independence of Israel. And so we have this really interesting moment that not only is something wondrous happened where Simeon's life has been completely changed and this great warrior is now walking away in peace, and that he speaks of Jesus being for all people, but also in the midst of this ancient prophetess, Anna, begins to go around to his other followers and to other people who knew him and other people who would have gathered around Simeon and speak to them and to praise God about this Jesus. So she sees what's happened. Her eyes have been opened as she's seen. I imagine she was standing very near or near enough to be able to hear what Simeon said. Maybe not necessarily to Mary, but his proclamation of his own life change. And so Anna begins to proclaim. This is one of the really cool things about Luke, is that Luke almost every single time pairs up the story with a male protagonist with the story of the female protagonist. And so he makes sure to show us what the women were doing at the time and the men, as opposed to Matthew, who doesn't share nearly as many stories of women as he does of the men. Which shows, too, how much God's kingdom cares about everyone, not just men, not just people of power, but all people. And so it's made very clear here, too, just even in the way that the Gospel of Luke is written, that God cares about everyone. And so in this passage, we have one of the cool things that we keep seeing from Luke is that women are fundamentally critical to sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. The women are the first a woman is the first to proclaim in the midst of this religious space of the temple, to praise God and speak about him. And then we see the similar thing happen at the end of Jesus' life and at his resurrection. That it was the women who first knew that Jesus was resurrected. So they went to go tell the great news. Also, somewhere in the middle of Luke, we have the story of the woman at the well, that when she gets into this space and she says, "This is my life," and Jesus tells her the things she's done wrong, she goes and she proclaims it to townspeople, and in turn, all of these people come out to hear Jesus' message when she goes and says, "Come, Let me tell you about the man who knew everything I'd ever done. And so throughout history, God has shown us that everyone matters. So we have talked about through these devotions, we talked about the people who are poor. We're going to get into how Jesus and his own family were immigrants into Egypt in a little bit. And then here we have another reminder that women and their stories and their struggle are crucial and critical to the story of God. We have seen that in Jesus' lineage, the 4 women that are mentioned there outside of Mary, and how remarkable their stories are and how much God cares and loves for each of us. So today, as you're thinking, what I love about Anna is that she is just sharing the good news. She's just proclaiming it. I imagine that other people, this was the kind of woman that when she spoke, everybody just kind of stopped and they listened. I imagine it was someone who was a sheer force of will. And for some reason, I'm being reminded of someone like Alice Doan, who had such a great strength in their presence that others stopped to listen. But the heart is good. And so my question for you today is, in what way can you proclaim Jesus Christ? What way can you be a beacon of hope in the midst of troubled times? What way can you speak truth to those who are having their lives changed, who are going through either difficult times or have just found grace and love? How can we be like Anna, proclaiming the good news of Jesus Christ for all?